Warm welcome to this session. This is going to be a demo session on React.js development. Let me introduce myself. I am Prashant. So basically, I have around 10 years of experience working in software industry. I am currently working for some MNC companies. In my experience, I have used most of these technologies like I started with Java, Angular, Spring Boot microservices architecture. Later, in my experience, I have also integrated various chatbot solutions. And for their front ends, I have used React, React Native. As well, along with that, I am also experienced in clouds like AWS specifically using serverless architecture for integration of Alexa, Google Assistant, etc. So that is all about my experience. Basically, in most of my experience, I worked as a full stack developer. So as a full stack developer, I was responsible for building front ends, back ends, as well as databases, and which is why I gain quite a lot of experience. And now I work as a technical lead or architect in my, let's say, current company. However, one good full stack developer should know front end, back end, and database. Back then, when if I start talking about 10-year down the line, just working as a front end developer or back end developer was enough. But nowadays, people prefer uh, an individual should be full stack developer. If not, but then at least they should know what exactly backend is, how it is coded. Let's say more or less, full stack developers are not doing all the works. There is always, let's say, they keep working 90% on front end, but then there is still 10% backend that they need to do. Good thing is that nowadays, because of JavaScript, it has become little easier for developers to code in front end as well as in back end. So before we deep dive inside the frameworks that are created, I would like to explain you how exactly web application works. So in general, these web applications are created and hosted on some server. If I show you here on very right hand side, there is a server which is hosting HTML, CSS, and some images using file system. And then there is some application which is running. It can be, let's say, coded in PHP, JavaScript, Python, or Java, which deals with the database. It may, cater all the requests which are coming from the front ends. And then there is database, which is again can be SQL or no SQL database. Uh, and that database basically stores all the relevant information that is required for that project. Um, well, when these web applications are deployed, usually, you get associated IP address or URLs to access them, and then user uh, I can access that either on their, desktops or mobile phones via browser. When they access it, all of that static files from file system are downloaded on the browser, and then that application then starts working inside your browser, which is nowadays called as website or web applications, be it any blog, public website, or banking application for that matter. In the end, everybody has to serve HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and images. And because of that, you see some interactive UI. And then user like you and me, then basically either collect the data based on whatever results are displayed over there, or there are some action buttons which are displayed on that page. Somebody clicks on that, and then some action or some request is again generated to server, and then server does some logic processing here on their instance, and then based on that some desired results are again written back, and which is why one transaction gets completed. When I say one transaction, it could be, let's say, for example, if you are accessing the banking website, you went on dashboard, but then the balance of your account is not yet displayed, but there is small button which is showing see balance. something, you click on that, then that end-to-end journey, the click response is then sent back to server, and that response is collected, and then whatever balance that you have is then displayed on the screen. So that is, let's say, one transaction. So like that, lot of transactions are handled by, let's say, our backend systems, and this is how in general entire web application works. Any doubt, any questions, anybody? Okay, silence means no. I hope it was pretty clear, because it is in the end very uh, high level overview. Now let's talk about little bit on JavaScript. Hope you have heard JavaScript before. Um, let's say, down the line when internet was not very popular, um, the the computers used to work in isolation mode, right? There used to be some file system on which people used to do some calculations, or you know save some stuff, just like nowadays we use, for example, notepad plus plus, where we create a file, we create some sort of data that we want to store, and we keep it in save mode. And then if you want to share that information, they used to use floppies. Or nowadays, for example, if we have to share some information and there is no enough bandwidth, we still use pen drives or hard drives to copy some big files and then share that across multiple systems. That is how the whole system was working. But then again, the problem was that you need to physically transfer data from one place to another place. And then the concept of the internet came. With that, browser came. And browsers are, let's say, these special softwares which were basically reading the files which are hosted on some remote machine. For an example, some other computer is having some files, those files you need to read. Then browser was capable to display that information by using special language which is called as HTML. But then again, that was, let's say, very static content, more or less read only content, that you access from other system. What if you want to do some actions, you want to show some dynamic information? That's how this ECMAScript was created, which is JavaScript. It basically deals with the user interaction. Uh, so, in other words, it is, let's say, a special programming language that was created to run inside browser, and then listen specific events which user is maybe generating by interacting on that particular web page. When I say specific events, maybe user is clicking on particular button, so then that is, let's say, click event. Maybe user is scrolling on the page, that scroll events. If user is maybe trying to input some data in input boxes, those are, let's say, another events. So such events can be handled by JavaScript, and then relevant actions can be performed. When I say relevant actions, maybe you need to send some information to your backend server. Maybe then you need to do some validation, right? So this is how entirely this JavaScript works. But then what exactly it does? Then it basically started enhancing our web pages. Because of this JavaScript, there was the possibility now to send only specific request to server, get only partial data, and update the DOM. When I say DOM, it is document object model, which we will learn in detail when we will start learning React.js. In fact, even before learning the React.js, we will maybe write couple of programs and try to manipulate DOM using just plain JavaScript and then HTML. So because of that, lot of web pages were enhanced, and since you need to now download only partial data, which was very popular back then, and that was called as Ajax calls. So those Ajax calls were made to server, and now you don't need to download each and everything from server again. You can only um, ask for specific information. For an example, the billing example that we saw on banking website, in that case you simply need bill information. I don't need other information that I need to display on this page. And because of that, websites became, let's say, very useful for customers, because now you are showing only relevant information that is required to customer. And because of that, lot of bandwidth was saved, lot of computing resources on servers were saved, and also the websites that customers started using became, very interactive, as well as, very fast as well, because now you don't need to load each and everything. You only load whatever is required. However, uh, let's say why JavaScript is preferred nowadays, because of one of these reason is that entire, your website becomes very responsive, and it enhances the experience. Second thing is this, good thing is JavaScript runs on client's hardware. When I say runs on client hardware, when you have, let's say, browsers installed on your mobile phones, tablets, laptops, it's your hardware. It's your, let's say, CPU, RAM that is being utilized to run that particular website. And because of that, the resources are shared now. Server don't need to do that heavy uplifting. Now server has to only serve those static contents and then handle lightweight requests to perform some database operations. And that is, let's say, one of the biggest added advantage why JavaScript became so popular. Um, let's say compared to conventional programming languages like, Java, um, .NET and all, or even Visual Basics, which were, giving their own sort of UIs using this JWT or Visual Basic. Those were heavy. Second thing is that, um, because you are using those languages, you need to create your application installer, and then you need to manually install that application on each and every desktop and access it. But now, because of JavaScript, HTML, and CSS is so popular, and then you can do pretty much everything from that. You don't need to, share your application's installable file. It is, simply you share the URL of your website, proper credentials to log in, and then one can, let's say, literally log into that website and complete their work. So no, let's say, added software installation or, specific configuration is needed. Um, and then in the end, JavaScript is easy to learn. When I say it is easy to learn, because there are, let's say, strict type check languages were available, like, let's say, Java or C sharp for that matter, or any other languages. There was, let's say, big learning curve. You need to learn the object oriented concepts. You need to learn their compilers. You need to write the very, strict check code, compile that into intermediate language and run it. So all of those things were not valid for JavaScript. It is, let's say, pretty straightforward. You don't need to learn each and every, data type. You don't need to, write the code that enforces very strict rules. That is how, JavaScript was then developed and became very popular for a developers like you and me. So then what happened when JavaScript became very popular? A lot of corporates and big companies started creating their website, web applications. Then the thing is that most of their work started shifting on websites or web-based application. So earlier, let's consider, or let's think that maybe there is some bank which is, having their own special software created to work. But then, because now, um, websites can do pretty much everything securely, they started, shifting their all softwares on web stack. And because of that, their softwares started, um, I mean, earlier it was, let's say, some distributed load that most of the work was still getting done by their applications. But then everything is now dumped inside the website, and because of that, applications are now very big, and you need someone that, manages your applications efficiently. Now we are talking about, let's say, very, front end part of a thing. um, so let's say if your website is having maybe, thousands of web pages, it does not make sense to, download all of them, um, or, keep refreshing all the pages on every user action. So to smartly manage that, to prevent on, all of such things, a lot of frameworks were evolved. Like right now there is Vue.js, which is also quite popular. Angular, which is developed by Google, is also quite popular. Back then, jQuery was popular. It was commonly used to capture all those user interactions, send the request to backend systems, get the replies, and then update to the DOM. But jQuery is anyway dying technology, or it is almost died, and it is completely replaced either by Angular or React. And then nowadays Vue also. Then React was also developed by Facebook for their internal projects, because they deal with a lot of uh, data, and then lot of stories or feeds which they need to display on their web pages. And to manage the DOM efficiently, they developed this language which is called as React, and that became very popular. Now because of this, you can have heavy websites, for example Netflix like applications. You can have Amazon like websites, which shows millions of products. And it is not like you need to download millions of products information on the first go, based on search queries, based on the let's say preferences, or whatever user is interacting. Based on that, few products are shown, and it literally swaps the information uh, on runtime on this particular virtual DOM. So because of that, these technologies are so popular, and then demand of developers who knows Angular, React, Vue is quite a lot in industry. Then back then, when uh, Google was basically evolving, they created JavaScript V8 engine, which is, let's say, very powerful engine, which because of that they could change complete industry. And then the heavy applications, like for example Gmail, even back then Duo, which was used for video callings, audio callings. Such applications now can run inside browser, and they can keep pulling the data from server, and you can show the notifications. And such a powerful V8 engine was created, and that was, let's say, the base of Google Chrome as well. So that engine was anyway open source, and Ryan Dahl and his team utilized that engine and created some language runtime which is called as Node.js, and that Node.js can easily run on server. That means now JavaScript, which we were talking a lot about, was primarily invented to learn in browsers, interact with, let's say, user interactions or handle user events, and then interact with the backend server. That can now run on server. And in the end, every programming language has this if condition, for loops. They have some functions. They can get something done, right? So because of having all of these features, now Node.js can also interact with database. It can also serve your static file system. So it can now it started easily replacing these let's say Java based backends, PHP based backend, and then .NET based backend. And second added advantage was, if you hire front end developer, he has to learn by hook or crook the JavaScript to complete his work. Once he know JavaScript, it is only, let's say, mm, matter of few days, where he has to spend or he has to invest in learning, and then he can become even Node.js developer, and with that he can handle all of these things. And this was also seen in, let's say, a lot of big companies, and that's how the mean or MERN stack became popular, which is basically the combination of either Angular with Node or React with Node, and some Mongo database, which is NoSQL database. Apart from that, there are also some frameworks like Meteor, Polymer. Those are there in market, but then when it comes to popularity, uh, React comes very first. After that, there is Angular, and then Vue.js. So these are, let's say, three frameworks which are quite popular and being used. Now, we saw, there are so many frameworks available, but then why React.js? One of the reason for React.js is it is nowadays quite popular, and because of that, there are a lot of job opportunities available when you learn React. Second thing is that um, it is easy to learn. When I say it is easy to learn, because React.js is not framework, React.js is literally library, and when I say it is library, then it has, let's say, limited sort of a scope to when it comes to the functionalities or offerings that React.js is doing. Even though it is less, but it is very powerful, and because of that, it is being um, again popular amongst developers because it is easy to learn. It offers very fast rendering. So when you want to show some data on website, it also depends how big your application is and what information you want to show. So now imagine if you are scrolling Netflix, or for that matter any OTT platform, and if it takes ages to load that content, then the user experience is not that good. Or maybe your consumer who is going to watch some, let's say, videos on that platform, because those are not getting loaded immediately, he may you know think that, okay, this platform is not very good, or maybe I don't want to even invest much time here and watch this content, because user experience is simply not good there. So such things can be avoided by using frameworks and libraries like React. So it offers you fast rendering. Third thing is that it offers you reusable components. Again, now I know that this is becoming very theoretical session, but then I can assure this is the only session where we will rely on PPT. Rest of the sessions will be in our editors, and then on our browser. So you will understand all of these concepts in detail. But for now, consider that reusable component is something that you develop. You don't need to develop it again and again, and you can use it in multiple places. So you develop a small component, and then that you can use at multiple parts of your web application. So it is, let's say, one of the best feature that React give you. And then React offers something which is called as virtual DOM. We will discuss a little bit more on virtual DOM, but then for now, just remember that because of this virtual DOM, your applications are becoming uh, responsive and fast. Then there is strong community support, because a lot of developers are adopting this. There are a lot of open source tools, open source libraries available, and then if you stuck somewhere because of whatever reasons, you can search it easily on Google, and you will find lot of answers for such errors. Because there is wide community, lot of people are using it, and somebody might have faced these issues which you are facing, and the chances are more that ready-made answers are already given, and then by using that you can achieve or accomplish your task. Then why React is easy to learn? So when it comes to learning curve, you need to literally learn only four concepts of React. You need to learn what is component, you need to learn what is JSX, you need to learn what is state, and you need to learn what is props. If you learn only these four core concepts of React, then you are you are having, let's say, enough knowledge to create website, and that's why React is easy to learn. Apart from that, in advanced section there are some things like there are some hooks, there are, let's say, some pretty much let's say different ways how you can interact with backend, how you can optimize your application, that we will learn through this course. But then the main thing is that if you learn or master this four things, you are as good as experienced developer in React. Now, like I said, virtual DOM. Um, so virtual DOM is, let's say, a feature that is offered by React, and what it does, it basically takes the control of your web page. So when your website is loaded inside your browser, there is some content which is displayed, um, because under the hood, browser itself is a special software that executes your HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then it creates some nice, maybe buttons, input boxes, headers, labels, text that you want to see. But then when you click on particular button, if view is changing, if data is changing, then virtual DOM is basically acting there as a boss. It basically says, okay, whatever changes that you want to do, first it will happen virtually, and then only affected parts that are, changed will reflect on actual DOM. And because of that, application becomes faster. Now let's try to understand this with this diagram. There is some component, because everything in React is component. So you can imagine there is some button. For an example, if that banking apps website is created using React, and the view balance is button, and that is nothing but a component, then if user clicks on that button, then that click action basically goes to server basically gives you new data, which is maybe, for an example, now they want to show 10,000 rupees as your bank balance. Then that 10,000 rupees is basically one update that is going to happen. So that update is then propagated to virtual DOM, and it says, look, earlier there was no data, there was maybe possibly zero. Now system wants to show 10,000 rupees. Then React Virtual DOM says, fine. That means, new data is there, and I want to, basically either refresh this component or show something there. So it basically re-renders that component, and then the comparison happens on virtual DOM and actual DOM. When I say virtual DOM and actual DOM means in memory what is changed, and an actual DOM what customer is currently um, seeing on the actual DOM or on actual web page. And then maybe in the end it has found out that even though I reloaded whole component, there were other fragments, like there were other text, there were other buttons and few other styling as well, which is not changed, which is same. The only thing that is changed is from 0 to 10,000. So then it says apply only minimal updates, only replace that number with 10,000, and that's it, rather than refreshing whole component or whole page. That is how, let's say, the virtual DOM works. Again, I know that this diagram is not really user friendly. You may not understand this um, entirely by the explanation that I am giving you. But then in our course section we will learn it again. We will actually see it in inspector, the how React virtual DOM is updating the data. But then this in the end is a concept that everybody should know, because interviewer ask lot of question on virtual DOM, how it works. But then in the end, when you do some code, um, you don't have to really worry about what is virtual DOM, what it will do. Now the changes or the code that I am writing, how exactly it's gonna change, that you don't need to, let's say, worry about. React will take care of it. But then as a, let's say, good developer, you should know that. Then there is a concept which is called as single page application, which is quite popular nowadays. You go either in view, or you go inside, or you want to create any application using Angular. Single page applications are also there, and single page application concept is also here, which means single page application concept is pretty generic. That is, let's say, more or less available across the platforms. And what it does, basically, when you interact with website, not whole of your website needs to be changed on every click. um, Back then, let's say, if you had a website which is only having some, let's say, home page, about us page, and contact page, and then on every click of that, let's say, page, when you are navigating from one page to another page, the whole resources were downloaded again and again from server, which is again from backend server. And because of that, it was quite time consuming thing. Maybe still there are some university websites, those are on older technologies. You might have seen that if you try to browse their pages, if you try to open something, it takes a lot of time. And if you click on some link, then it again takes a lot of time, because it has to load whole web page. So single page application says the only relevant portion inside that application needs to be changed because the rest of the information may remain same. If I try to show you this somewhere here, so let's say if you have any website which is designed with this layout, there is one header section, then there is some footer section, and there is some content section. Inside your website, let's say maybe in header section there is logo displayed here, then there is home page, about us page, and contact page. Now uh, when user clicks on home page, then some information is shown, maybe here some images or some slideshow with the images is displayed, and then maybe there are some products that you want to sell, popular products or something, those are shown here in column view. That is what is the information that you want to show on home page. And then in the footer there is again logo, some quick access link, and some contact information is displayed. Now to display all of this from backend server, you need to download almost everything. Let's consider that somewhere back here we have our server, and then somewhere here we have our client. Now this client is accessing the website in a browser, which is displayed and rendered like this. So the thing is that the moment this user typed some URL and made a request to this server, right? um, then this server basically needs to send some HTML, CSS, and JavaScript file, which is usually downloaded in your client machine, right? And that's why you need internet, because all those images do have some size. Maybe the images that you want to display are of, let's say, um, total size of 5 MB. Then all that 5 MB content you need to download from server, and that's how you end up consuming 5 MB of data from your internet. Then all that HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is parsed and displayed in the browser like this. And then now user says, fine, the home page is there. Now I want to see what is displayed in about page. He clicked on this about us button. Then again the action is made on server, and then from server whole content is again downloaded. Again the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then additional images that you need to display on about us page are again downloaded, and then browser needs to parse them and display each and everything one more time. So this was, let's say, quite time consuming thing. Now if you see, in reality, because you want to give unified experience for customer, so your navigation section, footer section remains always same, because on home page you had a specific requirement, you were showing the images with slideshow, and then some content in column structure. That is how your home page was made. Then when you click on about us page, then you maybe don't need all of this. Now the information is going to change, but the changes are applied only in this green box. Maybe now for about us page, now you have, let's say, the maybe founder member, VPs, or whoever are running the show or this site, their images, and then maybe the information about them, it displayed here like this. And then maybe additionally at the bottom, about the mission statement, motto, behind running this business, and everything is displayed. But then in the end, footer is again same. There is logo, quick access link, contact information. Navigation section is also same. What if somebody clicks on contact page again? Then in that case, all of this information is again wiped out, and then you need to display uh, only some form which is having lot of input boxes. Maybe I need to collect what is your name, what is your email address, what query you have, and then maybe there is one small submit button which I want to show. And then additionally here maybe some additional contact information or something that I want to show. So this is how, let's say, my website is completely designed. And now if you try to understand, the only portion that is dynamically changing is this portion. So single page application says I download all this content only once from server. Okay. let's say I downloaded all of this information only once. Now in next run, what I will do, I will keep everything in memory. I will utilize JavaScript's potential of updating the DOM. Now, when I say DOM, let's say this is one of the DOM, document object model. Now I will keep updating only this particular DOM element. I will keep rest of the things untouched. When user clicked on about, I will only download the information that is required to show about page from server. Now I am not going to download logo image, all the HTML, CSS, and whole of that content again and again from server. I will only download the portion of the information that I need to display here. Then user click on home page. I will again download only the images which are need to be displayed here in slideshow, and then the information that I need to display in columns. User clicks on contact page. Again, I will download only the information that I need to show here. In this case, only the partial HTML or just a component that I need to show here. Now in React, everything is component. This logo is one component. Homepage is another. Let's say button is another component. This is component. This is component. Then again, this navigation section, which is wrapping the thing, is another component. And because of this, now you see the same code that you wrote to create home page can be utilized to create about page, contact page. Same component that you created to show logo here can be show use here as well. Quick links like that. Everything is component based, and now you need to simply swap particular components based on the routes. Based on the routes means based on which page user wants to access. That is, let's say, the whole concept of single page application, which we will learn practically when we will, let's say, start doing the deep dive in React.js. Let's come back to our presentation again. So what you will be seeing in the end of this course, we will create lot of small projects like this. For example, some investment calculator, some website where you can uh, put the or show the products and put that information in a cart, some quiz like application, project management like applications. um, so Specifically, if I show you, then uh, let's say we will by end of every day we'll create one repository. We will keep pushing all the changes here, and then in the end we will try to create some investment calculator, which will calculate the returns on our investment. We will maybe try to create some project management application using the states and props and concept like that. uh, for now I will put any description for that matter. Let's say this is the and this is how my, let's say, the project is created. We can then add task here. Let's say sample task. Okay, another task for that matter. You can delete the task, you can again route back, you can create another project and things like that. In the end, code that we will be running would look like this. So basically doesn't I mean, if you don't know this package.json and all stuff like this, don't worry, we will learn almost all of these things in detail. But then in the end, there are, let's say, a lot of components that we need to do. um, so like the way I was explaining the header and footer and things like that, those are also available more or less here. There is code like this, and then when you run application like this, you can then navigate to the the link that is created here, which then opens in a browser. Now this is, let's say, one of the application which is created using React. You can add the content inside cart, you can view the cart, you can manipulate the data, you can close the cart. Of course it is not let's say integrated with backend, but then in this course our focus will not be on backend. I will give some ready-made backend code which you can still run and then finish the task. But then our focus majorly will remain on learning React JS, and then how you can utilize it for different projects, what are all different concepts available, how you can play around with the data, how you can display the components in a nicer way. That will be, let's say, our aim. So that is all from me. I would like to open this floor for any questions if you have.
Uh, Prashant, that was very informative.
Yeah.
Um, we have covered almost all the basics. Actually, I just want to know what is the curriculum for this React.js, like what all we'll be learning. I have few
Okay.
queries.
Mhm.
So,
So basically, we will, first of all, start learning some basics concepts of JavaScript, the ES6 features like basically, let's say, map, filter, uh, which are, let's say, quite commonly used across the application building. Once that is done, we will cover, let's say, we will spend one more session on refreshing the HTML, and then maybe create one small static website. Then we will jump slowly into React, and then inside React we will first start exploring what is this npm, how you can create React app using the React's create app tool, what is this Vite, Bebel, um, and how transpiling and all that happens. Then we will start actually creating the applications, dealing with the components, states, properties. And then once that is done, we will then use properties to send the information, states, and then callback functions. Once that is done, we will start exploring how we can create the application. And in that application we will start learning the hooks that React offers. There are a lot of hooks. Then we will start learning portals. We will start learning the uh, reference hooks, how you can then utilize it for actual projects. And then once that is done, we will have to then shift on data management, where React's context providers are there. And then we will learn how context providers are not sufficient, and why there is recoil, or other libraries available, how you can use them. That basically comes under advanced part of React, which we will cover. Once that is learned, we will sum up or gather all this knowledge, try to create, let's say, small projects using all of that concepts. Like for an example, putting item inside the cart, managing them differently in separate components is again, let's say, tedious task. uh, Specifically, it re-renders lot of things. It may affect on your speed and performance, how you can manipulate that. Then there are a lot of other concepts which we will learn, like making Ajax calls by using Fetch API, how you can use Axios third-party libraries to make backend API calls. Then map that data, show that data. Once that is done, nowadays we have to use this React JS with TypeScript combination. How we can create the project using TypeScript. How we can modularize the CSS. All of those things we will learn by in this course. um, in the end, maybe we will also share the list of you know topics that we will cover. But be
okay.
assured, by end of
Yeah,
this
yeah.
course you will gain a confidence. um, I mean, I think I will cover almost each and every part, by which you will gain a confidence to even work on large enterprise applications as well.
So, what is the duration of this course, Prashant?
So we will need at least 23 to 24 hours to cover all of this. But then I will not hesitate to conduct couple of more hours beyond that. So consider that we will spend more or less 45 minutes of productive time every day. But then in, let's say, some special cases, I may announce it in advance that we may stretch our session for 1.5 hours as well, so that with continuity we can finish certain things.
So, I can consider it as a 1 month course. No?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we'll have it in the same time, or there is any change of time slot?
On that, I will, I mean, discuss with our HRs and Spox, and then they will basically, create proper schedule, the links to join the sessions. Um, on that, maybe you can talk with the contact uh, from where you landed up here
Okay,
in the session. Okay.
okay. I was actually looking for some fast track course for React because I already have some experience with Angular, JavaScript, and HTML. I just
Okay.
want to have some. mm,
Mhm.
I spent some hours on React JS, but I just need one-on-one conversations like this, like a
Okay.
real-time
No
experience.
worries.
Then I was just looking
No
for that,
worries.
but
There
I
are
just need some fast track course because I have my kids to attend at this time, so I cannot join 8 o'clock sessions every day.
okay.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll quit.
Then we can. I mean, we also offer, let's say, one-to-one sessions. These are, let's say, at the moment whatever we are seeing, it's kind of batch. There are also one-to-one sessions which are offered. You can talk with either I don't know whom you were interacting earlier with Kiranmai or
Yes, I got a message from Kiran Mai on this
okay.
session yesterday,
You
so I just joined. I'll
perfect, perfect. Then please talk with Kiranmai. She can also design a one-to-one course where we can spend, let's say, maybe we will not spend lot of time on basics. We can directly jump into the Reacts and advanced part of it, and can
Okay.
design some fast track course for you.